All right, in this explainer, we're going to break down a really influential 1982 sermon by Reverend Sun Moon, who, founded the Unification Church. And this isn't just a religious text. It's really presented as a blueprint for all of humanity, built on ideas of universal law, morality, and the family as the absolute center of everything. So let's dive in and see what this is all about.
So right off the bat, the sermon kicks off with one of the biggest questions you can possibly ask. What's the one single truth that governs everything? It's aiming really high here, setting the stage for more than just a religious doctrine, but for a whole cosmology, a theory for, how the entire universe is supposed to work. No small task, right? And boom, here's the answer it gives. The whole point of creation, from the tiniest atom all the way up to the cosmos, is to build a world of love. And the ultimate expression of that love, the end goal, it all comes down to the relationship between a parent and a child. This one idea is really the key to understanding everything else that follows in this text.
Okay, so a universe of love sounds great, but how does it actually work? According to the sermon, it's not just random. It's all built on one single, non-negotiable law of creation. Let's get into what that is.
This big law, it's called the pair system. And the core idea is pretty straightforward, really. Nothing exists in isolation. Everything, from plants to the animal kingdom, is structured around a partnership. And the sermon is super clear on this. This isn't just a nice suggestion. It's a mandatory, hard-coded law of nature.
So let's break that down a bit more. This pair system has two parts, a subject, which represents the masculine side, and an object, which represents the feminine side. Their whole interaction isn't just for procreation. The sermon describes it as the very engine that creates balance and ensures a species can survive.
All right, so we've got this universal law of pairs. The next logical step in the sermon is to ask, what does that mean for us? For people, what's humanity's specific purpose inside this huge cosmic design?
Well, for humans, this whole pair system comes down to one thing, marriage. And the sermon says marriage has two main jobs. First, the obvious one, keep the human race going. But the second one is way more ambitious, to actively improve the next generation. So marriage is framed as having this evolutionary purpose.
Yeah, and this quote really nails it, doesn't it? The point of getting married isn't just to have kids who are just like you. No, the sermon sees it as this sacred mission to blend the best parts of both parents to create what it calls a masterpiece for the future.
And the sermon is absolutely emphatic about this. This whole process is ruled by that same universal law we talked about. It says the love between a husband and wife has to be totally pure, totally honest. It argues that if there's any impurity there, right at the foundation, it's going to corrupt the very future you're trying to build.
Okay, so if you have a universal law, it stands to reason that there are things that break that law, right? This is where the sermon takes a turn and starts to identify what it considers the biggest enemy of this natural order, especially in the modern world.
And here, the sermon is incredibly direct and, uncompromising. Because its whole universal law is built on this male-female subject-object thing, it defines homosexuality as a violation of that law. The text is very clear. It doesn't see this as a lifestyle choice, but as something that directly goes against the fundamental laws of nature.
From there, the criticism gets even broader, looking at all of society. The sermon basically says that America in the 1980s is dealing with a deep moral sickness. And it gives specific examples, like free sex and even incest, as proof that society has just thrown out the natural laws of love and family.
So what happens when this moral decay sets in? Well, the sermon warns that this is a huge deal. It's not some minor problem. It's presented as the single greatest threat to the nation, even comparing it to the kind of internal rot that it claims brought down the Roman Empire.
So, after painting this pretty bleak picture of the problem, the sermon shifts gears to talk about the solution. Okay, so how do you fix all this? How can society be restored?
The answer it proposes? A full-on moral revolution. And the sermon puts the Unification Church front and center, not just as another religious group, but as the specific organization chosen to bring back moral discipline and get society back in line with universal law.
And right at the core of this whole revolution is this idea of the blessed family. Now, this is a very specific term. It means a couple that was personally matched by Reverend Moon. In this worldview, these aren't just regular families. They're seen as the fundamental building blocks of a totally new world, like a living, breathing textbook for how universal love is supposed to work.
So what does that actually mean day to day? What do you do? The last part of the sermon gets really practical, laying out a specific, concrete mission for these blessed families. And it's all aimed at building what it calls the heavenly kingdom right here on earth. And get this, their main mission isn't to go to some faraway country. It's to work in a local neighborhood, in a specific area they call a home church. That's where this whole transformation is supposed to start, from the ground up at a grassroots level. And the strategy for this is, well, it's totally counterintuitive. The sermon tells these couples to go find the people who are the most negative, the most hostile to them. But instead of arguing, they're supposed to just serve them, clean their neighborhood, help them out. The idea is to win them over with nonstop acts of service and turn that hostility into acceptance.
Now, this mission isn't just some vague goal. It's got a very specific number attached to it. Every single couple is required to gain 3 spiritual children, basically 3 converts. And according to the text, this is non-negotiable. It's presented as something you have to do to restore past failures and to even qualify to enter the kingdom of heaven.
And this quote right here, it just sums up the whole mindset perfectly. It's all about this expanding circle of sacrifice. You, the individual, sacrifice for your family. The family sacrifices for society, society for the universe. You get the picture. It's a life dedicated entirely to a cause that is way, way bigger than yourself.
Which kind of brings us to our final big question. I mean, this sermon lays out this incredibly detailed, all-in vision for fixing the world. But it's built on these absolute, unbending principles, and it demands complete and total personal sacrifice. So it really leaves you thinking, what's the true cost of trying to build a perfect world?